What is it that makes someone an authority when it comes to camera or gear reviews? Um, well, I've got a blue light in the background. Does that help? So blue light aside, which obviously I changed because it's just not me. The camera space is an interesting one because every single video you see on YouTube, whether it's in the camera space or not, requires a camera to happen, right? Whether it's somebody's phone, whether it's somebody's webcam, whether it is a A7R5 like I'm filming on now, or it's an Arri Alexa, everybody is using a camera to film things, which means that anyone who is on the YouTube platform as a creator has a vested interest in the tech. They might not be terribly interested in it, but they have a vested interest in the tech existing. The problem that I see is that so many people just don't really know what to look for. They don't know what kind of review is actually going to be helpful for them. So they watch a whole bunch of different ones and they kind of piece things together. And that's great, actually. I think that's a good way of doing it. But lately what we've been seeing with all these new cameras coming out and new lenses and so much cool tech coming out, we are seeing people become a little bit frustrated and angry with camera YouTubers because they feel like they are not giving honest reviews. They're saying oh, well, you just got flown out to do this, so of course you're gonna say positive things. This is a terrible camera, or you made all this money off of this, or this is sponsored, or whatever. And certainly there are elements involved with when you are given an opportunity, you wanna do the best you can with that opportunity. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna tell the truth, but it does mean that you're gonna do whatever you can to do right by the people who you are making that video for, while still being honest about the criticisms that you may have. And that's a hard road, right? That's not as easy as you might think it is when you're just kind of sitting back and you're not the one getting paid to make videos. But politics aside, what I really want to talk about is how we can be more discerning about the camera reviews we do watch, so that we can make better purchasing options and make sure that the gear that we actually get is the right gear for us. So basically, I'm just gonna break down how to watch camera reviews for you. The first thing I would say is recognize that everyone's going to have a different opinion, and that's okay. That's actually really good. You know, when I first started working in the previous industry I was in, when I was first learning, somebody gave me a really, really helpful piece of advice. They told me, everyone is gonna tell you something different. Everyone is going to try and give you advice. Best thing you can do, pick 2 or 3 people and listen to everything that they have to say. Everyone else, when they give you advice, nod your head and say thank you. You don't have to be an asshole about it. Put all that aside and just listen to these 2 or 3 people for the bulk of your information. And I actually think that applies really, really well to camera reviews. If you're trying to listen to what 50 different people say about a camera, you're never going to get a good sense of whether or not that camera is going to work for you, because it's just too much information, right? It's like, a fire hose of information coming at you. If you choose 2 or 3 people that you think you vibe with and that you like the reviews, and you just say, you know what, I want to know what these people have to say, and that's it. But how do you pick those people? Well, I think it would be easy to just pick the big ones, right? To just say okay, this 1 million+ subscriber account, this 1 million+ subscriber account, and this 1 million+ subscriber account are gonna be the ones that I listen to because clearly they know the most. And that might be true, but it might not. And more importantly than whether or not they know the most, they might not actually be doing the type of photography or video work that you do. And so their information, though it might be helpful in a vacuum, might not actually be helpful for what you actually want to accomplish with that camera or lens or mic or what have you. So I think what we need to do is try and find people that are shooting the kinds of things that we want to shoot, and focus in on what those people have to say about that camera gear. For example, one of my favorite YouTubers to watch is Cam Mackey. I think his stuff is beautiful, but it's just not the kind of stuff I shoot. When I'm listening to him talk about a camera, I really enjoy it, but I don't necessarily make purchasing decisions based on what Cam has to say. That's not because what he has to say isn't helpful, it's not necessarily helpful for what I do. If I was doing more filmmaking, if I was working more with anamorphic lenses, if I was pulling focus more myself, if I was rigging out cameras more and doing more of the style of shooting he's doing, I would absolutely be going to him for all of my camera information. Now, I still watch all of his stuff because I love it and I think it's really interesting, but that's not where I'm going when I'm trying to figure out what is the next best camera for me. Alternatively, I might look at somebody like Taylor Jackson or Magic Wedding Photographer, very clearly wedding photographers in the YouTube space, and say, well, that's a lot of what I shoot, so their opinion on cameras might actually make more sense for me, and what they think would be a positive purchase decision probably is going to get me further along for what I do. It doesn't mean that everything they say is gospel, but it does mean that I'm probably going to get more from those type of reviews so long as they are using them in the real world in the ways that I want to use them. The next thing I would say is decide how much the technical stuff really matters to you. You know, if you're shooting macro photography or like super high-end commercial work where you need absolutely the crispest, sharpest image possible because it's like commercial product photography of a watch or something, yeah, you're probably gonna want some really, really technical reviews. But if you're a portrait photographer and you wanna, pick up a new 85mm lens, the technical aspects of that lens are probably not quite as important. What you really might wanna know is like, stylistically, how does that lens look like? Does it have interesting flair to it? How sharp is it or how soft is it on the skin, which can actually be a positive thing if it's not quite as sharp, where it might not score as well on certain tests, but it's actually better for what you do, that kind of thing. Having said that, I wouldn't just throw the technical stuff aside just because you don't think technical stuff matters for you. It's still good to get a sense of it. You'll get an absolute sense of the lens in a sort of microcosm. And then if you go watch some reviews where people are taking that out, or you're reading blogs about people who have used it on wedding days, or whatever your kind of particular use case is, you're gonna get a full rounded idea of that camera. I just wouldn't get too hung up on things like test charts and stuff like that to decide on your next lens, because you're probably just not going to ever shoot a lens chart unless you're making one of those videos yourself. So pick 2 or 3 people and have those people be your champions. Make sure that there's some technical aspects in there, make sure there's some real world stuff, and make sure that they're the kind of people who are creating work that you would like to create. They don't have to create the exact same style as you, but if they're making things that are completely different than what you do, the question of how applicable their review of a camera is going to be, it's hard to know. And that's where I would say just find people you like their work and try and learn from them. The last point here is sort of multifaceted, and it's this. 99% of the time, people are not putting everything they have to say about a camera in a review. And the reason for that is if they made a blog post with everything they want to say, it would be extremely long. If they made a video with everything they'd want to say, it would be extremely long. Now, some people are doing this and that's awesome, but usually what happens is people try doing something like this. They only get like 20% retention, meaning that only about 20% of the video is watched. And then they've put in like, days and days and days of work to make an hour-long, super robust video that very few people watch. People are looking for Cliff's Notes all the time, and so if we want a more thorough, invested review, we have to invest in those creators and the long-form content in order to actually see that. I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, on a broader level, if we want really detailed reviews, we have to actually want them. And people will be happy to make them. Like I would love to make an hour-and-a-half long review about like the A7R5 6 months from now when I have used it enough to do so. But I know that what will actually work well on YouTube is like a 5 to 6 minute review. And the thing is, I don't want to put so much time and effort into something that doesn't actually help people because people don't end up watching it, right? Because the whole point of making a camera review is to get eyes on it so that people can get informed. But if they don't want the information at that level or that depth, then I'm not going to make it. And I think a lot of people feel that way. So if you watch a review and you feel like it's missing something, it's probably because they just realized that every time they put out a longer form video, nobody watched. And can you blame them? I mean, they're doing this all basically for free. Now, taking that into account, what I would say is probably try and find at least one longer form review, whether it's a blog post, whether it is like a camera review on a website of some sort, whether it's on YouTube. Just try and find something more long form and detailed, because it's probably going to answer a lot of questions that you are going to have, let's say 2 months from now, after you've had the camera for a couple months and you're trying to figure out how something works, or if somebody else is having the same problem as you. I guarantee if you were to look at those long form things, you would be better informed, not just in your purchasing decision, but on how to use the camera and the experience you're going to have with that camera over a few months. So that's my take on how to watch camera reviews and how to discern things. Pick 2 or 3 people that you really think you can trust, and the rest of it you can still watch, but just know that You have your people. Figure out who your people are and ask them to do the reviews you want to see. Because I'll be honest with you, sometimes we don't know what to do here on YouTube, and so we have to just kind of throw things against the wall and see what sticks. So if you actually have something valuable that you want to see from a creator, put it in their comments. Let me know, what do you want to see me make? It truly is helpful, and I think when it comes to camera reviews, you'll be getting better quality reviews if you actually tell people what you want rather than just waiting for stuff to come and then maybe liking it, maybe not liking it, maybe yelling at them on YouTube or whatever. Mean comments, stuff like that. Be nice out there. Just be kind. It's a silly little platform where we make videos for fun in our living room. Bye.